Hey guys, Chase Swiper here. In light of the new League of Legends season, this is a quick guide to top lane in Season 6, brought to you by Nvidia. So we'll start off with Tier 1. These champs are pretty much easy to pick just because individually they're by far the best in their own roles. I'll first start off going through the champions. So Tom, he builds full tank and he won't lose any split push, and he's pretty much unkillable as well. For Ryze, he plays safe in laning phase and gets the tier catalyst. Once he gets rolling, it's really hard to stop a Ryze unless you really can't pressure it, so in solo queue this is perfect. Gangplank, he's the best farmer in the game, and his ultimate is practically a teleport. So yeah, if any of these champions are up, I'd highly suggest just picking them up, trying your best to learn them. A few of them are harder than others, but in the end they're really strong and they really need to be nerfed right now. Lastly, Fiora, I wouldn't say she's as strong as the other three in terms of overall strengths, but once she gets her items going, she's really powerful in a side lane, and even team fights she's strong, which makes her such a dynamic and good champion. So for Tier 2, these champions all could have been put in Tier 1, to be honest. The only reason being that they're not is because they're actually more towards the balanced side than the other four champions. These champions do have strengths that are more than the other champions in Tier 1, so I definitely recommend picking these ones up as well. So I'll start off with Malphite. His hard engage is really good, especially in the lower elos where teams just do the ARAM mid stuff. He builds full tank. You don't lose lane too hard, so definitely if you're learning the role, I would recommend picking up Malphite as one of your first champions. Next is Lulu. In competitive, I would say she's a really good flex pick, which doesn't really apply to solo queue. That's why she's not in Tier 1 for solo queue. But if you're doing with a good AD carry or with a good mid, she's a really good supportive pick, and she buffs your team greatly. Next up is Liss. She is an AP version of Malphite. I would say that's the best way that I would put her, and she also has disengage, so she does struggle in a few matchups, so you don't want to just blind pick her out of nowhere. But if the time is right, she can be an insanely strong pick. And last off is Olaf. A lot of people don't really play Olaf. A lot of people wouldn't consider it at the moment, but I'm telling you right now, give it a couple of weeks and Olaf will be pretty much one of the best champions, just because he counterpicks almost every single top laner right now that is relevant. And with his build path with Swifties as well, it just makes him really powerful. So I'll definitely recommend picking him up right now. Lastly, we have Tier 3. These champions, I would still say are quite good still. I wouldn't not play them. I could have added a lot more champions to this Tier 3 list, but these are probably the most relevant, and they're closer to Tier 2 than any other champions. So we'll start off with Graves. I actually haven't played Graves too much yet, but I just know he's very strong and I can see the potential in him. He's probably Tier 2, to be honest. I just haven't put him in my list because I would be lying when I'm saying that I haven't played the champion too much, but I can definitely see the potential in him, and he's already a very strong jungle pick. Next we have Poppy. Poppy, I think is very strong. Her kit is extremely broken right now. The only reason I put her in Tier 3 is because she does have a couple of bad matchups top lane, and I think her support is almost 3 times stronger than her top lane, just because she does so much with no items. But in saying that, there's still situations where you can play Poppy top and her kit is just still broken. So in solo queue, if you get your hands on her, then yeah, definitely pick her up. Lastly, we have Renekton. So Renekton, he is very strong, but he does have a lot of bad matchups, and you do not want to blind pick Renekton. In saying that, I still play him extremely a lot. If you see a matchup that you play and Renekton is good in that situation, then it's going to be really worth picking him in that situation, because he strives in good matchups, and when he gets ahead, he's really hard to beat. So with rune pages, I have 3 here that I'm going to show you guys, but in different scenarios I do use more than just 3 rune pages. But if you want a general knowledge of the lane and just rune pages in general, these will be your go-to rune pages for the AP, the tank, and the bruiser champions. So I'll start with the AP CDR rune page. I use this for Lissandra always. You'll use this with Lulu as well, and pretty much any other AP champion that you're going to play, I would recommend using this page. So I run Magic Pen Reds. I think that's a given. Pretty much every single AP champion will be running Magic Pen Reds. I don't think there's any other scenario. Maybe with Lulu you can run Attack Speed Res instead. but yeah, Magic Pen's very dominant in terms of the AP runes. For yellows, I use scaling HP. It's pretty much because you're never really in range to get hit by like AD or like anything like that, so you won't need the armor, and like HP scaling does really help in the mid game where you're not building health items. For blues, we've got CDRs, scaling CDR blues. I do generally think that scaling CDR in the blues is really overpowered. And I run it on pretty much every single rune page. I'll always have cooldown reduction in my blues just because of how broken it is right now. And lastly, we've got AP Quins. And again, another given. AP Quins are very dominant, and yeah, there's not really another scenario where you wouldn't run the AP Quins. Flame Bruiser is the next rune page, and for those wondering what Flame means, it's pretty much the player from Korea, Flame. He's my idol, and I look up to him for a lot of things. I go to his OPGG to check what champions he's playing, his runes, etc. So yeah, having that idol is something that motivates you to play the game a lot more, I think. So we'll start off with the reds. So I have attack damage as my reds. On some champions, Armor Pen is better. Like Poppy, I'd probably want Armor Pen, and other scenarios it's better to have Armor Pen, but if you want the general rune page, then attack damage marks will be your best. Next we have Seals. So I run flat armor Seals, which I think in every scenario that you're a melee champion, armor Seals is best in this meta, because you're going to be taking a lot of auto attacks, and against other bruisers you're going to have a lot of short trades that the flat armor really helps you in early laning phase. For blues, we have it's actually a really creative play, and I haven't seen it too much, but I have found a lot of success with it. It's having cooldown, like 5 cooldown blues, and then 4 magic resist blues. So it's actually a really good combination, and having a little bit of magic resist against, like, say, Lissandra or Lulu is good, but in general, like, I definitely think this part of the rune page is the most important, and it's very creative, so yeah, definitely check it out. Lastly, we have Quins. So I run attack damage Quins. I'm thinking, I don't think there's another scenario where having on a bruiser attack speed or anything like that is better. So yeah, like having attack damage Quins is like having an ability power on your AP page. It's very essential, and it gives you that extra damage boost to be able to trade in lane. Our last rune page that we're going to be looking up is, I call it Tarm/Mouth page, but in general it's a really good overall page for tanks in general. Yeah, this is probably the most consistent page that you'll see in tanks. There's not really any variety, to be honest. So we'll start off with our reds. We have Hybrid Pen, which is really good on these champions, on these tank champions, because they actually have a lot of like AP abilities, and you're going to be auto attacking a lot. So this like partnered up with Grassland Dyne is very powerful and quite strong, and synergizes really well with it. For yellows, we have Scaling Health. So like I said with the bruiser page, you run flat armor on the bruisers just because they have a little bit less HP. But with these tanks, like, you're scaling, you're not focusing to win lane, you're not focusing to do anything else other than farming lane, unless obviously you're versing a bad opponent or that you can take advantage of. But in general, you're just going to be scaling, and you taking attack damage harass isn't going to do too much. So having the scaling for your yellows is pretty important, and it helps a lot into the late game. For blues, it's pretty much the exact same thing. Like, you would think that running cooldown reduction on blues would be a good idea, but in general, having the scaling MR is very beneficial, because like when you get like mid game, you're building a lot of health, and you're not opting towards like both armor and MR until late game. So having them two scaling runes is very good, and yes, it helps a lot. And lastly, Quins. So this is really situational. The Quins is the only part that's situational. On Tarm and Malphite, I will be running attack speed, just because for Tarm you need to get the 3 proc to eat them or stun them. So having the attack speed is nice. Also under turret, you're attacking faster. You can kill the minions easier. Same with Malphite. It's very similar. In some scenarios, you can run AP. You can run movement speed on some champions. But yeah, in general, I like attack speed because it gives a lot of variety. So now we'll go on to the mastery pages. Again, it's very similar to the rune pages. I'm going to show you guys 3. But in different scenarios, there are going to be different mastery pages that are better. But in general, if you're going to be learning the lane, and like these are going to be the most beneficial overall, and the easiest to set up. So firstly, we've got Bruiser Thunderlords. I go 12-18 simply because these short burst trades like on Fiora and Renekton, the Thunderlords proc is really important, and it boosts your damage by so much. Like, you'll recognize the damage so much in lane when you try this. And yeah, you just burst out your opponent's level 3 Renekton, for example. You Q E on them, W Q E away, and you proc that Thunderlords, and half the HP is already gone. Some of the key points in here is like Oppressor. Oppressor is really good for slowing your opponents. So Fiora, when you're queuing on them, you're Eing them, you're slowing them, and then you get the Thunderlords proc as well. So it does boost your damage along with the Assassin mastery in the Cunning page. But yeah, overall, this you're going to be using this mastery page a lot, and it's really strong. So our next mastery page is Lissandra. It is primarily used for Lissandra, but you can use this on Lulu because you get like in harder matchups where you need a little bit more defensive. Again, it's Thunderlords. Thunderlords is probably the most broken mastery right now, for good reason. You poke them out in lane with your Q, and like you Q auto or Q auto, and then like yeah, you always weave in the Thunderlords proc. As a top laner, it's really important to weave in Thunderlords procs because that will win you trades, especially against Grasp and Dying top laners that are going to be fighting you back. If they are getting the health regen and you're not proccing your Thunderlords, then you're going to fall behind in lane. Some key points is that it's 6-18-6, which I know it looks very strange, and a lot of people don't do this, but I've actually found this from Duke, the SKT top laner, and it's worked to great success. So if you're playing Lissandra, and like if you're in a bad matchup, most matchups this is fine for. You can go a little bit more offensive in other range matchups. But in general, this is a really strong mastery page, and get on it because a lot of people don't use it. The last mastery page I've got here is labeled as Malphite, but again, it's a tank page. Like, you'll go this on Tahm, you'll go this on Malphite, Maokai, anyone. Like, it's mainly the Grassland Dying, and just like the tree is very similar to what you'll need in most tanks. The only one that I could think off the top of my head is like Mundo. He goes a little bit different, he goes more health regen. But yeah, in general, like going 12-0-18, you get the Grassland Dying proc. How to use it in lane is you just Q, like for example in Malphite, you Q, you run up, and every time you get the Grassland Dying proc, it's when you're taking creep aggro. So you walk up and you hit them with your W, then you E them instantly, and you can just walk away, and that will out heal like their damage proc most of the time if you can get it off. So yeah, in general, the Oppressor is a really strong mastery, and you'll want to get that most of the time. But yeah, like these mastery pages are mainly to get out of laning phase. They're not really aggressive, but yeah, like if you're running a tank, definitely use this mastery page. So next up, we have the key items. So this list is mainly directed at the bruisers, I think, because they have the most dynamic builds. And for tanks, I think it's pretty general knowledge. Build flat health. You chuck in some armor and magics when you need to. So I'm not going to focus on that too much. I'm going to more focus on the newer bruiser items that people may not know about, especially. And then we have an AP item at the end as well. So firstly, we're going to start off with Sterk's Gauge. I think Sterk's Gauge is a very strong item. Probably the second most core item in a bruiser build. You're always going to want to build it second or third, just to give you that health proc, and it actually gives you some damage as well. So people don't really know how strong it is. I mean, it is built quite a lot, but people don't realize how strong it is when they're building it. When you proc it in a duel, it gives you the trade. If they didn't have it as well, then your trade is going to be very strong. And it's just really powerful item in general. I suggest building it pretty much every time you're playing a bruiser. So yeah, definitely build that. Second, we have Boots of Swiftness. Boots of Swiftness came in, I think, this patch, and it's built in every role except I think AD carry. AD carries, most AD carries build it as well. Actually, in general, it's a really gold efficient item, and I think by far the best boost right now. There's really no other option top lane. Like it completely is a lot stronger than Merc Treads. You might want to build Lucidity on champions like Lissandra, but Boots of Swiftness in general, I would never not go in games at the moment. Next we have Hydra. So I'll be talking about both Ravenous and Titanic Hydra because there are scenarios that another is better than the other. So for example, Renekton, I prefer Titanic Hydra just because with the Thunderlord's proc and late game, like that item, the item itself is just really strong, and the active is really powerful. So I think right now Titanic Hydra is better than Ravenous in most situations, but maybe for Fiora when you're going full split push and you need the lifesteal, you would build that instead. But yeah, definitely like Hydra in general is probably the most core item as a bruiser. After that we have Black Cleaver, which again, I think Black Cleaver and Hydra, like they are the combination that you go as a bruiser, you're always going to have them 2 items in your build, unless you're like an Olaf, which sometimes you can't afford to go Hydra, you're going to go more health. But yeah, Black Cleaver, it's really good build path for early game. You get that Phage, and then you got the move speed, so like it's for Earth, or take it as another example, you get the Phage, and it's pretty much a ghost, like it's a ghost summoner, so it's really strong. You build them combination probably one after the other. I think I prefer Black Cleaver first, and then I'd go into the Hydra, just because of the gold efficiency and the build path. But yeah, it really depends on the scenario. Last up we have Frost Queen's Claim. Frost Queen's Claim, you're going to build on Lulu, Lissandra, pretty much every AP champion, because how gold efficient it is at the moment. When you're bullying, you're gaining gold, and yeah, just it's really good utility. It's a really good replacement for Morelos, and yeah, right now it is by far the best first item as an AP top laner. So thanks guys for checking out the guide. I hope you guys have learned something, at least. I really enjoy doing this, so if you guys want some more in the future, just let me know, because yeah, I enjoy helping you guys, and this is some way I can help you guys. So yeah, thanks guys. If you got any questions, just feel free to post some questions on the written guide. I'll do my best to reply to them. I will, of course I'll reply to them. I love you guys. But yeah, you can find us at chiefsesc.com/guides. Thank you.